What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that I wanted to check out in the theater, but didn't get the opportunity to, so I waited until it was available on VOD. And this is the directorial debut from Zoë Kravitz, who I have always really loved as an actress. I think she's incredibly talented in everything I've ever seen her in. Even if the movie isn't great, I feel like she always delivers a really solid performance. To know that she was taking on the directorial helm and making her first movie, I was really looking forward to watching it. And to be quite honest, I didn't know much about this movie outside of like an initial trailer that I watched, but it seemed interesting and it looked like it had a really great cast. And I read some initial reviews, and it seems like people for the most part were really enjoying it. And I'm looking forward to telling you about Blink Twice today. Blink Twice is directed by Zoë Kravitz. When tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation to his private island. But despite the epic setting, beautiful people, ever-flowing champagne, and late-night dance parties, Frida can sense that there's something sinister hiding behind the island's lush facade. So, as I said, I was really excited to check this out, really enjoy Zoë Kravitz as an actress, was looking forward to see what she brought to the table with her first directorial film. And this movie was awesome. I really liked it a lot. I don't think it's perfect by any means, and I can see where people are coming from that are kind of in the middle about it. I feel like there's a way I can talk about this movie without spoiling it, and then there's things I have to talk about in spoiler territory. So similar to other videos I've made, if you've watched in the past, I'm going to talk about my spoiler-free thoughts right now, and then I'll get to a point where I'll give a spoiler warning and talk about that for the remainder of the video. But for starters, I'm going to talk about the movie's premise a little bit, give you my brief thoughts, and then I'll get into spoiler territory. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Frida, played by Naomi Ackie, who is working as a waitress at this event with her friend Jess, played by Alia Shawkat. It's a very prestigious event for Slater King, played by Channing Tatum, who we see Frida at the beginning of the movie. She's sitting in her bathroom watching this apology video from him where he's been accused of all of these things, and he took some time to kind of step away from his company, and this dinner seems to be his kind of like reintroduction into taking over the company again. They're in there doing service for the event, but after the service is over, they snuck in dresses to go to like the after party or some sort of event that's going on so that they can go try to meet Slater. So they go in there and they end up running into each other, Frida and Slater do, and they have a brief conversation and they talk for a while. He ends up inviting them to this table with all of his friends. There's a ton of people in his friend group, and he invites the women to fly to his private island for a vacation, and they're kind of just awestruck that he would invite them. And so they go and they get on this plane and they fly to this island, and every day is just paradise for them. They eat this incredible food, they go swimming, they drink endless alcohol, they smoke weed, they do all this different stuff, and each and every day is seemingly wonderful until it's not. Frida starts noticing some very weird things going on there, the way that some of the people who work on the island are acting, how she's seemingly forgetting parts of her day. And the entirety of the film is Frida trying to figure out what's going on this island, and is everything exactly what it seems. So as I said, I thought this movie was awesome, and for starters, it's the performances. Everyone in this movie does a really fantastic job, but I really want to commend Naomi Ackie, who plays Frida. She gives a fearless performance in this movie. She has to do a lot. Her character goes through a lot of things in this movie, and there are so many incredible moments of tension where she does so much through her facial expressions and reacting to situations that I was completely and totally floored by her performance. And I'm really looking forward to seeing her in more in the future, because this movie, she was incredible. Channing Tatum does a really excellent job here. His character has ebbs and flows, and I feel like there's one scene in particular in the third act that I was really impressed with his performance. Most of his performance throughout the film is kind of subtle, but I feel like there's an intentionality behind that, which I'll talk about a little bit more when I get into spoiler territory. Adria Arjona, who a lot of people will know from Richard Linklater's Hitman that came out this year, she is also awesome in this movie. I really enjoyed her performance, and I think she added a lot to the film. Her character was a reality TV show star that was on this show that was like Survivor for badass women, and I really liked her character a lot. But there's a ton of great acting talent in here. Simon Rex is in it, who delivered an amazing performance in Red Rocket. I've really enjoyed him over the past couple years in the projects he has been on. Haley Joel Osment's in this, Christian Slater, Kyle MacLachlan. I really like like the way this film is shot and edited. It plays with time a lot and the concept of time from the perspective of our lead characters. And I love how jarring the editing is in moments. I think it really accompanies the overall tone of the movie, that while information is being delivered to you throughout the runtime of the film, it just makes it hit so much harder when more information is revealed to you. And I also feel like the sound design contributes a lot to that as well. And I just really enjoyed this movie a lot. And the big part of the movie that I want to talk about, I can't discuss without spoilers. So from this point on in the review, I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't seen Blink Twice, go watch the movie, come back. I highly recommend you check it out. But to talk about the praises and some of the qualms I have with the movie, the only way that I can discuss those is spoiling it. So if you have seen the movie already, the spoiler of the film when we get there is we find out that the reason why things are hazy for the women is they're being drugged. And every single night they're there, they're being sexually assaulted after they're being drugged by all of the men on the island. And the way that it's revealed to you, it's very much a punch in the gut. There have been a few movies released recently surrounding this idea of men in positions of power abusing their positions of power to take control over women. And I think Zoe Kravitz is saying something very powerful with this movie. But I think where this movie is going to either hit hard for people or not work for some people is the tonal shifts in the movie. There's a lot of comedy in this, but it's also incredibly bleak. There are scenes of rape in this movie, and it's not an easy subject to ever tackle. But I think Zoe Kravitz does a really phenomenal job at balancing that tone and showcasing something so horrific, and how, like, because there are lighter moments, it almost feels like, especially when it becomes more sinister in the third act, that light-hearted tone, these men don't feel like they're doing anything wrong. And what's interesting is the way they justify it to themselves. And they live in this kind of la la fantasy land where they're not understanding the ramifications of their actions and how they are harming someone, or they just don't care. Like Channing Tatum's character, like, he is just relentlessly evil by the end of this movie. And I think jumping back and forth in tone really creates a fascinating contrast about what these women are witnessing once they realize that they are being assaulted, in comparison to the fantasy land that the men are living in. And I think when you put that in perspective, it makes the tonal shift easier to sit with throughout the movie, because it keeps jumping back and forth. And there are moments that I don't think it works as well as others, but I think overall, for a movie as a whole, it's incredibly effective. And I'm glad that directors, especially female directors like Zoe Kravitz, are using their platform to speak out about assault from men in positions of power. And I think the way that it's showcased in this is great. I had expectations that it was going to be something about Channing Tatum's character being evil, but I didn't know as to what extent. And so it was a pretty big shock to me. The final scene in this, I'm not 100% sold on how the movie ends. It's a little corny, the direction that it goes into, but it didn't necessarily take away from my overall enjoyment of the movie. I think it's suspenseful, it's engaging. I love when it got really violent towards the end. I thought the way the violence was conveyed was really fantastic. And it's just a very engaging movie that's clearly trying to make a statement about these men in positions of power. And I think if you're looking for a fun thriller that can be dark but also have comedic beats, you should definitely check out Zoe Kravitz Blink Twice. So have you seen Blink Twice? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really entertaining, and it's incredibly impressive for a directorial debut. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.